But I mastered that style. It's like the 5 deadly venoms. So all he had to do was get next to a nigga like that, he could destroy him.
Believe in that, for real. We plan to take the same strategy we use with Death Row West, mind over matter, taking all our weaknesses and make it into our strength. That all these people talk about an East Coast, West Coast war, they like the Judas was to Jesus. They only here to cause confusion. We here to bring money and to bring change. They here to cause confusion. All these weak rappers, Nas, all these suckers, they battling off of East and West like this is a game. This ain't no game. If this was chess, we'd be yelling checkmate 3 years ago, because we've been beat these. It's not a game.
What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. I return to you as EGOVELI Thug Life Outlaw Westside Immortal. Now, the new media is coming strong, and so is EGOVELI. And again, new media, it's basically restoring order. So you might as well just call me Frank Castle, the Punisher, if you follow Marvel comic books, because I'm coming for justice in the world of boxing. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, as am I. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is in boxing, there's a lot of propaganda, a lot of agendas, and a lot of people won't support their opinion, right? They'll say these outlandish things. Now we're going to get to the nitty gritty with new media to see who knows what. And I posted this on Instagram, and you guys seen the title, and we'll get into today's episode. I sent these tweets. Why does ESPN rank Triple G before Terry Norris on their top 25 in the last 25 years list? Laugh out loud. Name the Sugar Ray Leonard equivalent that Triple G has beat. Hell, name the Julian Jackson or John Mugabe style threats to Golovkin style that he has defeated. I like Triple G, but facts are facts. Hashtag, you don't know shit about boxing. And I said this is my caption, and we'll get right into it. I'm just going to drop this here. If you dispute this, you probably don't even know who Julian Jackson or John Mugabe is, or you don't know shit about boxing, or both. If you agree with the placement of Triple G before Terry Norris, please intelligently explain based on what? Laugh out loud. Golovkin is very talented, decorated amateur background with potential to be great, but how can you rank someone off of potential? Laughing my ass off. We haven't seen Triple G fight a known elite in prime fighter with momentum. Pop quiz, hot shot. Name, without Google, the last undefeated fighter Golovkin beat. I can tell you the last undefeated fighter Canelo beat. It was Austin Trout. Floyd beat Canelo, took his O. Pacquiao beat an undefeated Tim Bradley and blemished his record. Name Triple G's. Again, Triple G. Decorated amateur background, power, etc. Good fighter. He's 34. So he's 34 years old with no significant at the top of their game names. I get some people have ducked Triple G, but you still don't get credit for an assignment you haven't turned in, no matter what the reason is. People duck Terry Norris as well, and he still has some great names on his resume like Sugar Ray Leonard, Julian Jackson, Mugabe, Meldrick Taylor, Maurice Blocker, etc. Don't disrespect my boxing history with these lists like this. I get pound for pound lists are subjective, but why doesn't ESPN explain why they put Triple G before Norris? Boxing fans need to hold the media accountable for their work. I'm out. 100. Hashtag new media, hashtag boxing ego. And I meant every word of that. It is time for the boxing fans to rise up. And the real reason for this is because there's a lot of people in boxing who are trying to learn and discover more about boxing, and they're impressionable. So when you feed them agenda-driven propaganda with no support, they might be inclined to believe you because you're supposed to be a respected source. Now, they're giving Ronda Rousey ESPN Fighter of the Year awards in the same year she got knocked out. How does Ronda Rousey beat Floyd Mayweather on that list? And Floyd Mayweather defeated the fighter of the decade, someone who ESPN ranks number 2 as the pound for pound best fighter in the last 2 years, right? And then they named Mayweather as number 1. So Mayweather beat the guy that you have ranked number 2. So basically ESPN, in their words, the top 2 people are Mayweather and Pacquiao. Mayweather beat Pacquiao, yet he still loses to Ronda Rousey. You could have gave the award to Terrence Crawford, Donald Cowboy Cerrone in the UFC, or Gennady Golovkin, and it would have still made more sense than giving it to Ronda Rousey because they had done more. You know what I mean? Golovkin's undefeated, Crawford's undefeated, and they're all looking sensational. So, again, I call it how I see. And I'm just sick of this. Max Kellerman just did an interview, and he's saying that the same thing. Like, oh, he's the best fighter of this era over Mayweather, and I'm going to do a separate video about that. explain these things to me. So with new media, we're getting back down to the nitty gritty, and I need to know with intelligent boxing talk. And there's just a few rules to the Ego Fight Club debate. We want to talk about boxing. Don't bring up anything gay. Don't switch subjects. Explain to me what Golovkin has done to get him on the all-time greats, top 25 in the last 25 years list before Terry Norris. Again, Golovkin has potential to be great, but you don't get potential for being feared and people avoided you, because the fact is you still haven't fought those people, right? You don't get credit for a test you haven't taken or an assignment you haven't turned in. And that's as simple as I put it. And the thing that's offensive to me is guys like Terry Norris, he can barely even talk at this point. He has like a slur. You could tell his motor skills have been affected through the sport of boxing. So I feel it's highly disrespectful to have more or less a newcomer, and they're being outranked by guys who have given their lives. Not to say Terry Norris is no longer on this earth, but again, he has a slur. He seems punch drunk. I've heard interviews. He's a little bit hard to understand and stuff. So a guy that's given this much to the sport of boxing, and you're gonna put Golovkin based off basically fanboyism. And again, if it's not that, if it's not any kind of side deals you have with Golovkin or whatever, then explain how he would beat a guy like Terry Norris. Now, the funny thing with new media is, as you guys are going to see, people oftentimes try to go at new media. Not a good look. I wouldn't do it if I were you, because I know my boxing. You can try. So I'm going to read a comment. A guy said, Rue 481, I guess when you're the most avoided fighter in your era, it has to count for something. And then I responded, how long have you been watching boxing? Who's your favorite fighter? He didn't respond to that question, which is a typical casual response where people don't respond to what you have to say and they switch the subject, right? So he didn't answer that. Besides, Terry got KO'd by Julian Jackson and beat a washed up Leonard, right? So he did get knocked out by Julian Jackson, but he still stepped foot in the ring. Golovkin possibly could get knocked out if he fought a guy who had lethal power like Julian Jackson. Julian Jackson, that was the Hawk. That man had power. He had power. I believe he has way more power than Golovkin per capita, per division, right? And it's just funny to me. So I don't even care about that because he lost. My point is he stepped foot in the ring with Julian Jackson. Now, listen to the second part. I'm going to reread it for you. And he beat a washed-up Leonard. So, according to Rue, Sugar Ray Leonard was washed up when Terry Norris beat him, right? This is where new media comes in. And I wish somebody would try to dispute this. Go to a simple BoxRec search. You see his entire resume, 47-9, no draws. We go down to his resume. There he is. Sugar Ray Leonard. So, once again, Terry Norris, go to a BoxRec, and we're looking for SRL, Sugar Ray Leonard. They fought in 1991, February, right? Sugar Ray Leonard, 36-3 with one draw. Now, as you can see, Terry Norris, he defeated Sugar Ray Leonard, right? So he was washed up. In 1991, he was washed up, yet if you look at his BoxRec, he has not lost, and he hadn't lost since 1980 when he fought Roberto Duran, right? Not to mention, after he fought Roberto Duran, he rematched him in the same year, 6-20, 11-25, and beat him via TKO, no mas, right? Not only did he do that, if you go back up, he had beat Roberto Duran a third time. Right? So right before Terry Norris, he beat Duran, Hands of Stone, who they're making a movie about, a third time. So he had the best of the trilogy. And then he fought Terry Norris and lost. So he was washed up, but he's coming off a Duran third win, right? Before that, he had a draw with Tommy Hearns. But if you know your boxing, you'll know Sugar Ray Leonard had already knocked out Tommy Hearns in 1981, right? And he had defeated Marvin Hagler out of retirement. So that shoots down that story immediately when you say he was washed up. How is he washed up and he hadn't lost? He hadn't took an official loss since Roberto Duran in 1980. So from from 6/20, 1980 all the way to when he fought Terry Norris in February of 1991, he hadn't lost. He only had that draw with Tommy Hearns, a guy he was 6 foot tall, probably taller than 6 foot, and knockout power, and he had already knocked out Sugar Ray Leonard, TKO'd Tommy Hearns already. So having a draw with Tommy Hearns, the hitman, I mean, that ain't bad, especially considering Tommy Hearns' his skill set and his power, right? You go to, and I can't, for copyright reasons, I can't show you guys like the clips airing, but Terry Norris versus Sugar Ray Leonard. Look at the caption of whoever uploaded, Mike, whoever uploaded this video. Leonard battered, right? Terry Norris versus Sugar Ray Leonard, great fight. But again, he was washed up. He was washed up and he hadn't lost in basically a decade, right? This is the Julian Jackson fight. So I'll try to put the links to these. And it was a fun fight. He did get stopped in that fight. But back to the issue at hand. ESPN, the pound for pound ranking. How do you have this man coming in dead last at 25, right? Weight classes, junior middleweight. Golovkin only has one weight class on his resume too. Top 3 signature wins: John Mugabe, Sugar Ray Leonard, and Meldrick Taylor. Meldrick Taylor, another, you know what I mean? When you think of Chavez Sr., what win do people always praise? Because it's not Sweet Pea Pernell Whitaker, because a lot of people thought he should have lost that fight. It's Meldrick Taylor. And he actually knocked him out in the 4th round, right, in 1992. So how do you have this man, Terry Norris, behind Gennady Golovkin? Top 3 signature wins. Grzegorz Proska, which was Gennady Golovkin's HBO debut. Grzegorz Proska, Curtis Stevens, and David Lemieux. They don't even have Martin Murray. I think Martin Murray, this is my opinion, as a boxing fan, I would say Martin Murray is probably a more significant win than Grzegorz Proska. Because, I mean, Grzegorz Proska? Really? So his signature wins, Grzegorz Proska, which he stopped him in the 5th round. He stopped Curtis Stevens. And see, this new media, Curtis Stevens, when he fought Gennady Golovkin, that was his first title fight. David Lemieux, he stopped him. He looked great. He controlled it with the jab. David Lemieux had been stopped by Marco Antonio Rubio, and he had also lost right after that to Josim Alcine, who recently he ended up losing to Macklin. He lost to the Charlo brother. He got stopped in both of those fights, right? Macklin, I think, stopped him in the 1st round. You know what? New media. Let's new media. I want to make sure I'm precise with my information, because that's what new media does. So Gennady Golovkin, right? So David Lemieux, 34-3. He's been knocked out twice. Obviously, the first one was to Marco Antonio Rubio. So he got knocked out by Rubio, and then he lost to Josim Alcine. Again, a guy 35-8-2. So keep in mind, David Lemieux lost to this guy. David Lemieux lost to him. Look at all the colors on his box rec, right? He just recently got stopped by Jermell Charlo. He got TKO'd by Brian Rose, who Demetrius Andrade walked through. He got KO'd by Matthew Macklin. And look at David Lemieux lost to him. And look at what happened after that. After he beat David Lemieux, he went on to get knocked out by Macklin, knocked out by Brian Rose, a guy Boo Boo Andrade defeated horribly. Then he lost to Julian Williams, Omar Chavez, whoever that is. He lost to Francisco Santana, who I want to say he's a 147. Cream Mayfield knocked him out, and Saddam Ali beat him. Yep. And this is the guy that's his top. This is David Lemieux's his top win. Like, this guy had a draw with Delvin Rodriguez. Cotto annihilated Delvin Rodriguez. He annihilated him, right? Edislati Lara embarrassed him and battered him. And this is the guy, I'm not trying to just throw shade at Josim Alcine, but this is the guy that beat David Lemieux. Now, where David Lemieux was at in his career, he had kind of rebuilt. He beat Gabe Rosado, who Golovkin already beat. He destroyed Fernando Vargas, who's been stopped before. He beat Hassan Endam, who Quillen knocked down more times. And then he fought Gennady Golovkin. So, back to the ESPN list. His top 3 signature wins are Grzegorz Proska, Curtis Stevens, whose first title shot was with Golovkin, and David Lemieux, who, really had to rebuild his career. and he was a new champion. He was a champion for probably like 5 or 6 months before losing in his first title defense against Gennady Golovkin. And this is the guy that you're putting before Terry Norris. I just feel like it's disrespectful. Again, Terry Norris, he has speech impediments. He's given his life to boxing. And some people just don't know boxing. Like John Mugabe. Some people don't know the beast. He knocked him out in the first round. If you know Mugabe, that is a feat, because Mugabe was a beast. That's why his nickname was the Beast. He was a beast, and Terry Norris just stretched him. You know what I mean? Sugar Ray Leonard. Look at these names. Mugabe, Mildred Taylor, who people praise Chavez Sr. for beating, and he knocked him out. So how can you compare Mugabe, Sugar Ray Leonard, and Mildred Taylor to Gregoris Proska, Curtis Stevens, and David Lemieux? Stats and info. Golovkin has won 21 consecutive fights by knockout and made 15 title defenses. That's great, but it really depends on who you're fighting. And they even know this. ESPN's take, a bit early to write Triple G's history, but has the potential to go down as an all-time great middleweight. How do you rank someone off potential? Like Bernard Hopkins, his legacy is already set in stone, right? It just makes no sense that you would put... You're putting Golovkin in the company of Winky Wrights and Prince Naseem, and Miguel Cotto is number 21. Chocolatito beats Miguel Cotto. See, I didn't even really look at this list. Klitschko, man, I would destroy this. Why is Eric Morales number 18? Come on, man. Andre Ward, 17. James Toney's before Andre Ward. And this list, man. But anyway, back to the subject at hand, Gennady Golovkin. He's a good fighter, but who is he beat? He hasn't beat that elite level name. He doesn't have, name the Sugar Ray Leonard equivalent, name the Mugabe equivalent, the Mildred Taylor even, that he has faced at this point, to this point of his career. And that's really all I got to say, but just don't disrespect the boxing history. Like, these are great, legendary fighters, and a lot of these fans are impressionable, and they really are. And for a vehicle and an entity like ESPN to put out this type of stuff, David Lemieux's his best win. I mean, David Lemieux was a recent champion. And the thing, what I'm talking about is this. Simply put, David Lemieux is a good fighter. I like David Lemieux. But it was his first title defense, and he went after the big dog at middleweight. And arguably, I don't know if David Lemieux would beat Curtis Stevens, if he could beat Peter Quillen, if he could beat Danny Jacobs, because he never had those types of title defenses. You know what I mean? Does he even beat an Andy Lee, a Korobov? We don't really know, because he immediately jumped the line and they rushed it into the Golovkin fight, and he didn't even get to prove his legitimacy as a champion. Like Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford keeps showing you his championship pedigree. He's been holding on to his belt. Perfect example. Like, he beat Gamboa, he moved up in weight, he stopped everybody in the new weight class, Thierry Jean, the Hank Lundys, and guys like that, Thomas Delorme. So he's showing you, he's getting title defenses in, whether people bashed those fights and thought those people had no chance to win. We don't know what happened with David Lemieux had he fought other middleweights. They might have been able to beat him too. Maybe not as impressively as Golovkin, but again, I don't know if David Lemieux would beat a Danny Jacobs. I really don't. So bottom line, to wrap this up, Golovkin is way too premature. He's 34 years old, and it's premature. And you're putting guys like Chocolatito and Golovkin on the pound for pound top 25 of all time. I just find that highly offensive, because, yeah, they do have potential. They can definitely be great, but let's wait until their stories are written. You know what I mean? A lot of people want to see Chocolatito versus Estrada, you know what I mean, or Rigondeaux. Can he beat those guys? Can Golovkin beat an Andre Ward? Can he even beat a Canelo? I say he can beat Canelo, but I still got to see it. I can't just give someone credit for it. And that's all I got to say. Let me know what you guys think of ESPN's top 25 of all time. We just got to hold this boxing media accountable for what they say, what they write, including myself. And I know me as a student of the game, I'm still learning. I don't know everything about boxing, but I did study up, and I know my legends, like guys like Terry Norris, and I know what he's accomplished by the time he was 34 was more than what Golovkin has accomplished at 34. And that's just as simple as put it. And it has nothing to do with hate, because at the end of the day, some people are going to say, oh, you're just hating on Golovkin. You hate him. I'm probably going to go to his next fight, to be honest. It's nothing to do with hate. I like Golovkin as a fighter, but I'm also a realist, and I'm realistic. And the thing is this, if you hate somebody, you're not going to have any type of integrity in terms of what you say to them. You're just going to say outlandish things and anything to throw dirt on their name. You don't care because you just hate them. So, of course, you're going to just say whatever. Like, oh, this person sucks and he's a bitch. And I never said Golovkin sucks. I just told you several times that he's a good fighter, right? I never said he's a bum. I never said anything like that. And more importantly, new media just showed you with proof. You guys can do this same research, but not everyone has the time. Some people would rather just sit back and listen to EGOVELI do a video and present the facts to them. So again, if I was hating on Golovkin, I wouldn't take the time out of my day when I have other things to be doing, other videos to work on, to show and educate boxing fans with proof. So if you disagree, intelligently respond. I don't care about, oh, you're gay and you hate Golovkin. If that's what you feel, that's fine. But explain how Triple G deserves a higher placement than a guy like Terry Norris, right? Even Chocolatito, like, how is Chocolatito a couple spaces before Prince NASEEM or even Golovkin? I mean, I love Chocolatito. I think he's skilled as hell. I put people, go to my channel. I told people to watch for Chocolatito before his HBO debut, before a lot of people even knew about him, right? I did a first look on him. But how's he even above Golovkin? I think Golovkin's done more than Chocolatito, and I think there's a little bit more competition in his divisions than a guy like Chocolatito. So again, this pound for pound list, I understand it's subjective, but you got to make it make sense. And if you can make it make sense and you can explain to me intelligently how Triple G has done more than Terry Norris to get a higher placement, do that in the comment section. That's all I got to say. Make sure you like my video as always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next videos, Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.